Hey guys, today I'm out in Portland taking a look at the all-new 2025 Buick Enclave. And today we're taking a look at the two top trims. Over here we have the Enclave Avenir, and over here we have the Enclave Sport Touring. The sporty, I guess, interpretation of the Enclave if we're talking about styling, because no additional power happens under the hood, and you can get all-wheel drive on both of them. Let's talk about what's changed for 2025 and how these two models compare. Over here in the Avenir, as you can see, we have more chrome, lots more chrome, but it's actually a little bit less than you might think. If you come in for a really close look here, these individual grille elements are the only parts of this that are chrome. We then have a very dark gray, shiny grille that kind of shines in the light as if it were chrome. Kind of looks more like a smoked chrome from a distance, but it's actually black. We then get these sort of, I guess handlebar mustache kind of thing going on there on the side. And then over here on the Sport Touring, we have an entirely different egg crate grille with black accents. Let me know which one you like better down there in the comment section. For me, the all black thing here makes this look just a little bit too hungry, I guess, to my eye. Buick basically took the same design language we find in the other Buicks and just stretched it vertically. And that is, I have to say, the one area of the Enclave that I'm not the biggest fan of. I do think that the Chevy and the GMC are just a little bit more attractive. Now, speaking of the Chevy and the GMC, they're now all the same length. In the past, the GMC was the short interpretation of this platform, but for this generation, all three are very big, over 207 inches long with the Enclave here. And the big reason for that, of course, is the back seat and the cargo area, both of which are absolutely huge for this segment. So if you're looking at something like an Acura MDX and you want a lot more space, a real usable solid third row and a bigger cargo area in the back, that's one reason you might want to give up the driving dynamics you find in the MDX and get something like the Enclave instead. This is still solid to drive, don't get me wrong. We can talk more about driving when the video goes live for the full review, but obviously it's not going to be, super handling all-wheel drive or anything like that. Now, moving around to the back, you'll notice that over here on the Enclave Avenir, we have the progressive turn signals. We also have a full-width light bar that's animated when the vehicle turns on. And over here, as you noticed up front, we get the tail lights very similar in appearance, but they don't have that progressive nature. So they just blink on and off over here in the Sport Touring. And you're going to find that also in the base preferred trim. Other changes, we get black accents around here on the bumper. So body color matched bumper over here on the Avenir with the chrome trim. All blacked out down here on the bottom of the Sport Touring. Same chrome exhaust tips, twin exhaust tips down there. The one thing I dislike about the shiny black trim is that it's probably going to scratch long term. So especially if you live in a dusty area or you're not extra careful when you're washing your car yourself, some of these shiny black pieces are definitely going to show wear over time. And that's especially true for the black wheel moldings here and the black window moldings around the vehicle that we get on the Sport Touring. We also, instead of the satin chrome roof rails, we get black roof rails right up there. Purring along under this hood is the exact same 2.5-liter 4-cylinder turbo we find in GM's other full-size unibody SUVs. It produces 328 horsepower, 326 pound-feet of torque. It's mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission and your choice of front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. As you can hear, it's not quite as refined sounding as the outgoing V6 engine that we used to find in the Enclave, but it is a little bit more efficient, and of course it produces gobs more torque. And torque is definitely going to be helpful when motivating a big SUV like this. Even though it's a unibody SUV, it's not exactly a lightweight. Something like a Highlander is definitely going to be significantly lighter, although also less powerful. Moving back around to the Sport Touring trim, I should mention that this model has the standard 255/55R20 tires on 20-inch wheels. You can also get a 22-inch wheel on the Sport Touring, and that gets you the same tire size we find on the Avenir, which is a 275 width tire. I find it interesting that that's optional on the Sport Touring. With Sport in the name, I had kind of expected wider or maybe grippier tires to be available on this particular model. I like the fact that we have hood struts in both models, and if I come over here to this model, you'll really notice how close the hood is to the front of the vehicle. There's a little rubber seal, so the hood really gives it this sort of bird beak-like appearance here, I guess you'd say. It's definitely a particular style choice. I'm just not sure it's my style choice. I'd love to know what you all think about that, however. A big reason to buy the Enclave is because it's big inside, and with me to help demonstrate that, I have Sophie and Bae from Redline Reviews. You and I both seem to like this Avenir interior a bit more, but before we get to that, let's talk about the seats.
Yes.
So I found the seat bottom cushion to be a little on the short side.
I actually agree. I also think that the padding could be a little bit better. It's a little bit of a firm seat, especially when you look at the class of vehicle that this car kind of competes with. I find softer seats in a lot of the luxury competitors.
And that class is tricky, of course, because this competes sort of between a regular mainstream thing and a near luxury thing, because Buick wants to be premium, so they're saying sort of kind of MDX, but also Highlander, Grand Highlander, Telluride.
Yeah, I'd probably say like Mazda CX-90 would be very, very close, because they both want to be premium. But I have to say, Alex, this color combination with like the mocha, the light gray, the bronze, this looks like it belongs in a really expensive luxury car.
I have to agree. And again, we'll get to that in just a second, but let's hop in the back now, because we should talk about how big this interior is. So if I jump into this second row here, at the moment, all Enclaves are going to have 7-passenger seating, but they did tell me today that a 8-passenger model is coming next year.
They said that.
So yeah, so we're going to get a bench seat only in the base model.
And the the preferred, okay.
Preferred will have that, but just, I mean, check out this legroom. There's tons of legroom, tons of headroom here. And I can hop into this back seat two ways. I can, of course, go through the middle, you can tilt it normally, or you can tilt and slide with a child seat in place there. So I will go ahead and hop back here with this front seat, second row seat, not all the way back, but hop in there. So let's see what kind of legroom you have. Let's see how that goes.
Yeah, let me see here. Okay, I mean,
you could come back. You know, if I was a kid, you could come back further.
If I came all the way back, though, it might be.
If you come all the way back, it's touching my knees back here.
I definitely noticed that.
And I'm not sure how reclined your seat is. Is that upright, or is that kind of?
This is like up. This is like the standard.
Oh, okay. Actually, then now I have more room, because you were a little bit more reclined. You know, lots of room back here. On the combined legroom chart, this is basically class leading now. Headroom, though, if you come back here, Travis is behind the camera there, everybody. Headroom is really good in the third row as well. It's about as good as most full-size SUVs on the body-on-frame side, and that's mainly because seat bottom cushion's kind of close to the ground.
Yeah, I appreciate how it's kind of sculpted up there. They even put the rear air vents back there in like a really clever position. Also, I love the panel roof, how it comes in over my head over here on the second row side. I mean, I like the fact that, Buick gives you back. I like the fact that the captain's chairs are standard, and I feel like there is a good amount of space, and I love the fact that this can seat 3 across.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do a 3 across test. Gosh. Come on back here, Travis. Let's see how this works if everybody is back here. Travis is going to hop in there. Let's see if we can show all. There we go.
You're just going to create a Sophion sandwich.
Yeah.
Here,
so let's. I guess I'll be over here with the longer arms here. You can actually fit 3 adults back here. And how's your headroom over there, Travis? You're pretty decent over there.
Yeah, I'm in the ceiling a little bit, but if I lean forward,
Sophie in the middle. He's got plenty of room, and your shoulder belt. It's kind of over here.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a fan of that one.
Neither am I.
If you actually buckled that in, does that actually fit you right, or does that like cut you in the neck? I'm curious.
Let's see here.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm actually surprised.
Yeah, I am too, because I thought that would just be sort of a, on the neck kind of thing. I like these air vents up here. What do you think about the air vent placement up here in the ceiling? I'm a fan.
I think it's a clever position, especially since they had this little cutout here. Might as well just utilize it.
Yeah, so let's hop out and then we'll take a look at the dashboard. So I've gone ahead and grabbed the camera from Travis, so you can see sort of the difference in the headroom. Up front, we have lots and lots of headroom, and it kind of decreases as you go rearwards. Travis still has a reasonable amount there in the second row, but not as much as he had there in the first row. But Sophie, let's get back to this interior color combo. Do you like this one or the blue one better?
The blue one is a little more controversial. It doesn't match up with all the exterior colors, so I think I personally would go with the brown, because it goes really well with the rose gold and the light gray.
Part of me really loves that navy blue and ivory one. I am just a tiny bit concerned, will it age well? We see that same color combo in the Sorento from Kia and some of their other plug-in hybrids, and also like the Pacifica had like a hot second with the blue interior.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of wonder if this is going to age better. I don't like it as much, but I wonder if it's going to age better.
Yeah, that's always a big question because that blue kind of reminds you of the 90s a little bit, but it's kind of coming back into style.
It reminds me more of the 80s, but
maybe 80s or 90s. But this is, to me, is a little more timeless. I think the color combination looks really nice. The big 30-inch display as well with the alloy trim and everything. This reminds me a lot of the 33-inch display in Cadillacs, but I noticed one problem with it, Alex, and that's the CarPlay screen. While it is nice that it's here, it's not quite as big as the CarPlay in the Traverse and in the Acadia.
And that's because of this sort of eccentric horn-rimmed glasses kind of thing here. So CarPlay, especially like if you're in the map, you get that little map. Actually, the secondary CarPlay map in this instrument cluster is much bigger. Just check that out. That's actually being driven by the iPhone, and that's enormous just due to the way that Apple does their display for the two-display CarPlay. It really is striking when you put them side by side.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you go back to like the embedded GPS there, you can see it takes up the entire screen. That, is designed for it to take up the screen, but CarPlay, as you can see, has a little bit of a compromised area.
But hey, we have CarPlay. They didn't do the thing they're doing with the EVs. They didn't delete it. And we still have some physical buttons down here for the climate control, so physical buttons there. This volume and power knob, I kind of wish they'd just put a little tiny knob up here instead and given us a second charger or something.
I actually kind of agree. Like this to me, it's nice that it's there, but over here would have been better. Like maybe a drive mode selector here would have even been better.
That would have been good too. Yeah, because there's no drive mode selector here. You have to change the drive mode
all the way over there. Right, it's almost like it's a forgotten place. Like they were like, oh, we need to stick it somewhere, let's put it over there, versus they could have just put it over here. I mean, I do appreciate the floating center console. Buick was actually telling us they made a big deal about this with the engineers.
This I really like, because we jammed a lot of stuff down here. I mean, there's glasses and GoPros and tape measures and things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love the piano black here, but you know what's interesting, Alex? They actually told us yesterday, this little console, this floating console can support up to 200 pounds.
Wow.
I know, I'm not going to be willing to try it, but like...
You don't want to dance on that?
No, thanks. I don't want to be the one to breaks it, but it is kind of cool that it can hold...
It can hold me. Yeah, here we go. And then over here on the steering wheel, we have the sort of general Buick design steering wheel, kind of bowl-shaped there. I really appreciate that when GM lately has been doing these different colored interiors, like this brown interior, they don't go halfway with the brown. So we have brown accents inside the steering wheel. The column is brown. Even this little pleather flap thing behind that, that's also brown. So they did a good job like matching the brown on the parts, but they didn't change the stock color. So the stocks are still charcoal.
Yeah, that would have been kind of nice to have it matched. But you know what, Alex, that steering wheel reminds me of Mazda. What do you think? Do you see it?
I do get a little bit of Mazda from the steering wheel. I think this is actually a bit more comfortable because it's thicker than the Mazda wheel, and I do like a thicker steering wheel. Also, of course, Super Cruise, something we don't find on the Mazda or the Lexus or the Acura, etc.
Yeah, the Super Cruise is a game changer, but I'm surprised, Alex, it's still $3,700 extra in this top Avenir trim.
It is a pricey thing, and that is, of course, because Super Cruise uses a ton of different sensors. So Blue Cruise is a lot cheaper, but Blue Cruise isn't as nice. And I don't know if I'd call the Explorer in this category because it's a decent amount smaller inside. Now, if you do like acres of black in your SUV, you can get it in the Sport Touring trim here, right?
Yeah, so the Sport Touring only comes with this black interior with the kind of like the gray contrast stitching and the piping, and it definitely looks good, but I'm not a big fan of all black interiors. I kind of think that Buick should have offered like a dark cranberry red, especially on the ST.
Ooh, that would have been good, actually. I think I would have liked that, because they have that cranberry red in the Envision, the mid-size one, right?
I believe, yes, they do. It's like a burgundy. It's
yeah,
like a burgundy. That would
but
be
looking
nice.
at the components here, so instead of the perforations, we get this kind of interesting sort of Naugahyde-like texture there. The metal effect trim, no real metal in any of these models, no real wood either, but that metal effect trim comes in two different tints, so a light, bright one there, and then sort of a dark tint on the door, replacing the imitation wood that we had in the Avenir. And then the after-stitched injection molded upper dashboard components, those are all basically the same, except it's charcoal here. And like I noted in our full video, the only thing that I find about this interior that's out of place is this speaker grille right here. I think it just doesn't come across as premium like the rest of the bits.
Yeah, I would agree. And if you also look closely, Alex, it's not really sitting as flush as I'd like it to on the dash. There's a little bit of a fitment issue. These are really early pre-production vehicles, but even though this is the more baser trim, and Alex, this trim that we're sitting in is a pretty good deal, less expensive. I think it starts at 48 versus 60,000 plus on the Avenir trim, but it's still very nice. You have the same kind of steering wheel with the really thick rim. You have the Super Cruise, which is $3,200 extra here. You have paddles here. Did we have paddles?
We have paddles on there too.
Okay.
It is weird though that the paddles only do their paddle thing after you've pressed the L button.
Oh really? So you have to go into the L button.
Yeah, so if you're in drive, you can't paddle. You have to L first, then paddle.
Okay.
Basically the same center console here. You can see lots of black plastic. it already is showing some scratches. So I am a tiny bit concerned about that since there's so much and it's so horizontal that I just want to, I mean, I would probably end up putting things on there, which would make it worse.
Right.
But we have a big storage area here in between.
Yeah, the storage is really nice, which is important for a vehicle like this. I also want to mention that compared to the Avenir we just got out of, Alex, this trim is lacking cooled seats.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't have the massage feature, although the massage feature to me is kind of a throwaway.
Yeah, the massage just basically is inflating and deflating the lumbar support bags. But let's talk about that other storage feature back in the Avenir, which is the ginormous trunk back there. Travis has been working in the back here to get it ready for us. Everybody wave to Travis over there. So in this Avenir, we have over 23 cubic feet of storage space. It is huge back here. We measured it out earlier in case you're wondering. It's 49.5 inches across sides. So you can fit 4x8 sheets of plywood in here. They'll stick out a little bit, but you can actually stuff them in.
Wow, that's impressive. So you would say, Alex, this is probably the biggest cargo area in the class by the third row?
By our measurements, this apparently is the biggest one behind the third row. The weird part about, of course, cargo measurements is that not every manufacturer measures them the same way to the same standard, so it's a little bit difficult to compare.
Yep.
But under that floor, we get another huge storage well, and I was able to put our large roller bag down there and still close the lid. And then they're not giving up a spare tire for that. If we pull these guys off, then it's actually kind of funny. This whole thing, I'll hand that to you.
Yep.
This whole thing actually comes out. You take this whole lower floor module out.
And there's the spare.
And there's the spare along with the subwoofer and some sort of weird electronic module there for the third row seats. So I have to say, like, they did a pretty good job packaging not only a lot of storage, but, you know, practical touches like the divider for the spare tire. So it's not under the car, so it's not going to get dirty as you're driving down the road. That's a touch that I like. On the other hand, we have powered third row seats. I kind of prefer the manual ones. They're a little bit faster, although these are pretty speedy. You can't have the second row seats all the way back and get them to fold down completely, though. You do have to kind of move those second row seats up a little bit.
Yeah, I did find that pretty finicky, and I remember, Alex, when you folded down those seats, you get around 57 cubic feet of space, which is a ton, and then 97.5.
Yeah, it's almost minivan-like with the two rows folded. 48?
For base price?
Yeah.
45, and
45.
this is 47.5.
So it's 40, what was it, 45?
Even for the preferred, plus destination.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of, was the including destination was 46 something then. 40, 46, 4?
I think it's 13 or 14.95 for destination. I can't remember.
About 36.5. Okay, just under 36.5. That's an easy way to say it.
You mean under, just under 46?
Just under 46.
Okay, I was like, wait a second.
46.5. Yeah. All right. Are we recording? Oh, okay. So if you want to get your hands on the Enclave, obviously it's going to be more expensive than last year. It's going to start around $46,500, including destination. That is kind of a weird starting price in a way, because what do you compare it to?
I mean, that's the thing, is it is strange because even the sister vehicle, the Acadia, is $42,500. So this is the most expensive. The Traverse is $37,600, if I remember correctly. So it's kind of in between, again, like a Grand Highlander and a Lexus TX. So it's occupying an interesting white space.
And it's worth noting that comparably equipped, the Chevy, the GMC, and the Buick are all pretty close. I mean, logical, because same equipment, right? By the time you've added the same things to everyone. So the Buick is mainly more expensive because it comes with more standard, which is, you know, makes sense with Buick's positioning as a premium brand, but it also makes categorizing it tricky. And then, of course, there may be a Cadillac XT6 coming. So for people out there that are wondering comparisons, I'm not entirely clear this would be a direct Lexus or Acura competitor, more of an alternative to, because the Cadillac theoretically could be that competitor.
Should be the Lexus competitor.
But this will certainly get up to Acura and Lexus pricing.
Yeah, because this model here, it's a pretty loaded up ST with like the Super Cruise, the power package. I think this one was around $58,000 when I priced it out. But this one here, Alex, is around, well, it's a two-wheel drive version, so it's around $63,000.
Yeah, and this one does have, of course, Super Cruise, so it's fully loaded except for the all-wheel drive option, which would get that up to about 65-ish. Of course, you can't get Super Cruise on a Lexus TX. But everything else that you can get on a Lexus TX to try and comparably equip it to this model, I measured that out to be about $70,000.
Right.
So it is, you know, it's about $9,000 less expensive or so.
Right.
Is it $9,000 less nice? I guess that's the question. I would say in some areas it's nicer than the TX. In some areas it's not as nice.
Right.
And on balance, I think the price actually makes this work better for me than the Lexus TX. But how about you?
It is a good point to bring up because I really like the Lexus TX. I like how it drove. I thought the seats were great. I think the powertrain is way more refined in the Lexus.
Yeah.
And I think if you're going to be spending this kind of money, the noise that the engine makes, it sounds really coarse and just rough. I would personally choose the Lexus over that. Although interior design, I think this looks better.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I agree too. I like the way that the shapes are laid out. And of course, the Lexus TX is one of the first Lexuses in a really long time that doesn't have real wood trim. So weirdly, the fact that you have fake wood or no wood isn't actually a disadvantage for Buick anymore, because we don't find those on Lexus. We don't find any more premium components on the dash. There's no more stitched stuff. There's no more soft stuff on that Lexus TX. And we actually get more seats in here, theoretically, than we will get in the TX, because the TX doesn't have the third-person third row.
Right, it's only 2 people across.
And there'll be an 8-seat version of this at some point. So if you kind of want a premium thing with more seats, admittedly, you can only get the base model, supposedly next year, with that option. But I'm really intrigued to see what viewers think of this. Like, are viewers okay with this sort of in-between badging of Buick, or, you know, should Buick just not exist?
I mean, I'm glad that Buick exists. They're definitely, you know, still dealing with an image problem of being that old person stigma. But I think that they're kind of going in the right direction. But, you know, it makes it hard to choose because all 3 of the triplets are really good. I'm talking about the Acadia, the Traverse, and of course this. It's really just going to come down to what is your particular taste with the design of the outside and of the inside.
That's true, yeah. And I have to say, this interior, well, not this interior, that interior is, of the 3, of the triplets, that's the interior I like the most. But of the triplets, I think that the GMC looks best to me on the front, and the Buick looks the best on the back.
The back is very Lexus-like, I will give you that. It's beautiful.
And that brings us back to the back, where I have another question. Do you like the taillight module here in this model where it's red all the time, or do you like the sort of clear ice cube style lighting in that one? You
know, I have to say, Alex, I think I actually prefer this. I was following you on our way over here to go shoot this, and this model here I think looks more elegant, and it has those sequential progressive turn signals, which look much better.
I do like those, and I kind of like the chrome. Somehow the chrome look on this works better for me, and I am a little bit concerned about black scratching over time, especially this area here with roller bags or luggage getting in and out. It seems to be easier to hide even if you don't do paint protection film on a body colored car. So again, let us know what you think about all that down there in the comment section below, and of course stay tuned because the full drive review, that's coming up shortly, and we will see all of you later. If you want to find Sofian, you can get him
at Redline Reviews.
There we go. See all of you later.